Mr. Feagles,
No.
we've officially played our final game of the 2020-2021 NFL season. Unfortunate, but at least we have one more game to talk about here.
Exactly. Yeah, listen, I thought it was great. It was a good ending to a season that was really crazy, John, as you know. And
See, Jeff, I disagree. I was really disappointed by the game.
Well,
I thought the Chiefs came out and played one of the worst games I've ever seen them played, and this is not me taking anything away from Tampa.
I guess what I meant was it more of like it was great. It was good they had a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
It was just the end all to a season that was not what it was supposed to be. The game stunk. The game absolutely stunk. It was horrible.
Okay.
That's what I meant. It wasn't that I really enjoyed the game, and you know why I enjoyed the game more than anything. But the fact is that the game was horrible. In fact, we were at a get together with some friends of ours, and there was just a few of us. We left in the middle of the end of the third quarter. That's how bad it was. I'm like, let's just go home. I'm tired.
Yeah, it was. Look, I mean, I don't think there's any other way to get around it. And again, this isn't me taking credit away from the Bucs. And by the way, Jeff picked the Bucs, so he was all over it. He was right.
Was I the only one that picked it?
Paul, Lance, and I all picked the Chiefs on Friday, show and made fools of ourselves. So that okay. I will happily eat crow on that. And Jeff, my big theme going into the show is that into that game is that I just didn't think the Buccaneers would be able to control the Chiefs' passing attack. My one caveat was the one way they do it is if the defensive line wrecks the game. Mm-hmm. And frankly, in a lot of ways, the defensive line wrecked the game.
They did.
That said, I also want to tip my cap to the Bucs secondary because there were a lot of plays where it looked like Patrick Mahomes had a second or two, but he couldn't find the guy open that he thought would be open on that particular play. He had to go to his second read, his third read, things of that nature. So I want to give them credit. I wish CBS would have actually showed some decent replays during the game so you could actually see what they were doing defensively. I don't know what that production crew was doing. I thought the replays were – anyway, I don't want to kill CBS. I just didn't think it was a very good TV production of the game. Mm-hmm. But, I just think the Bucs defense and Todd Bowles did a wonderful job. But at the same time, I also just thought the Chiefs, in every aspect, whether it's penalties, special teams, offense, offensive line, whatever, drop passes, go down the list, they just played poor football.
Well, I think it was stay on the Bucs. The Bucs, they were solid, consistent, and also they went away with their bread and butter, which was they didn't blitz a lot. They really said to themselves, kind of what we thought that Spags was going to do on the Kansas City side, what he had done always against Brady, was we're going to rely on our front four to get after the quarterback, and that's what Tampa Bay did.
They did.
They just said, okay, you know what, we're going to wreak havoc on Patrick Mahomes in this dilapidated, and we talked about this, and you and I had talked about this on Friday about the tackle position with Remmers. I figured it was going to be a huge, huge part of this game, and it turned out to be. Now, Jason Pierre-Paul didn't have a sack, but you know what? They got pressure up the middle.
Well, it was even a bigger problem at right tackle, too. Remember, Remmers had to leave right tackle to the left tackle, and that screwed up the right side of the line.
And we all – I mean, those guys they played out of their mind, and I feel like the whole defense – the defense won this game, and Tom Brady was able just to be able to do whatever he wanted and just kind of methodically take it down the field. And throw touchdowns to two guys that they're the first time they've been on Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gronkowski gets 2, Antonio Brown gets 1. I mean, think about that. Mike Evans and Godwin, they didn't even play yesterday, basically.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I was just sitting there going, oh, wow. So, but, it's just amazing to me. And as much as I do not like Tom Brady because he's of the Patriots, I was actually rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought they would win. I now just know how amazing and unbelievable that Tom Brady is and how he goes about doing things. He basically went there and told everybody on the team, you guys want to win a Super Bowl, then just come and do what I tell you to do.
100%.
And you could tell after the game he was probably telling all those guys that. He was like,
by the way, the owner basically said that after he accepted the trophy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He said, we just realized we got to go out and get one guy, and we brought him in, and that was it, And
it was. I think he said something like, get the guy that's already been down the road we're trying to go down, and then just follow him.
He's been down a long, long road. But he just – and by the way, did you really think that Tom Brady was going to lose a Super Bowl in his home field for a year? I mean –
hey, look, Brady has lost Super Bowls, but Jeff, to your point, he didn't have to be Superman in this game.
No, he didn't, because he had that defense. And
He
I'll
only
tell you,
completed 2 passes for over 20 yards in the whole game.
and I know a lot of us know this name around this region here, and Todd Bowles deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the game plan that he put together yesterday. And you know what? I think this is another stepping stone for Todd Bowles. I think, a lot of times we've talked about how coaches, Bill Belichick is a prime example of this, John. You get a head coaching job the first time and you stink. And then you go back into being a coordinator, and then all of a sudden you get rehired and you learn about what you did and what you didn't do as a head coach before. I think this is a major stepping stone for Coach Bowles. And you know what? If he wants another one, I think he'll get a chance at it next season.
Yeah, he might. Now, again, we never know, because some guys are just better coordinators than their head coaches. 100%. That happens.
And you know what? He might realize that that's where he is in his life. I know that the article that I was reading about this morning, he was like, listen, I'm down here where it's warm. I can play golf. My kids are here. It's just I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And, he's with a good staff. And lo and behold, he's with a hell of a football team.
Yeah, no, look, tip the cap. He was just phenomenal. Just did an unbelievable job. Just a great job out of Todd Bowles and that Bucs defense. Big Blue Cook-Off Live is presented by the new X Series of scratch-offs from the New York Lottery. Multiply your winnings up to 100 times. Please play responsibly. And, of course, Big Blue Cook-Off Live is part of the Giants Podcast Network, presented by Investors Bank. The archive of this show and all our podcasts can be found on the Giants mobile app at giants.com/podcast and on all your favorite podcast platforms. So, Jeff, let's touch on the Chiefs here for a moment. We talked about the offensive line. And look, that's personnel-based. They lost their 2 starting tackles to season-ending injuries. That happens. It happens. I'm not going to kill them for that. And we'll get to this when we talk about what this means for the Giants. When you can't protect, it's hard to play offense.
Yeah.
But that being said, the punter looked like he had the yips. I'd love to get your take on that.
I want to go over that sequence when we can.
Do it right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, a lot of times what happens when you drop a snap, I've done it before. I've done it holding. I've done it punting. It immediately is in your head. I will tell you that. It immediately sticks in your head, and it's hard to get it out of there. A lot of times what happens, John, is you're able to, if you got the punt off like he did, then the play's over, right? And you go back to the sideline and you can think about it a little bit. Well, there was a penalty on that play yesterday. And so now that guy had to come back out immediately. And I was saying to my friends around there, I'm like, that is still in his head. I promise you guys. I guarantee you he's thinking about, all he can think about is catching the football. And what happens in that situation, you forget how to do what you're there to do. Punt, and boom, out of bounds.
It's almost like one of those things when you're playing golf, right? And you're trying to hit the iron on the par 3, and you chunk it. It goes in the water. And then you're so concerned about not chunking it when you're hitting your second shot off the tee, you end up like slicing it or hooking it.
But you got it over the water.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
But that's what happens in that situation. I felt horribly for the guy. But, to your point, field position, as we've talked about it many, many times, and when you have an offense like Tampa Bay and being able to run the football and be balanced and be able to do play action like they did yesterday, you give them that field position, they're gonna get points off of that type of stuff too. And by the way, Tampa did also get points off their turnovers or their takeaways, which is a big thing, from Lance Meadow, who loves that stat. Lance is the man with that. He's like, I don't care about turnovers or takeaways. It's what you do with them once you get them.
And not for nothing, and trust me, the last thing I want to do is talk about Lance being right. But the other thing Lance brought up actually 2 weeks ago, or I guess it was 3 weeks ago, when the Chiefs played the Bills, is that he was very concerned about Patrick Mahomes' toe. And I don't think that showed up in the Bills game. But even from that first run of the game, Jeff, I think it was his first drop back.
Yeah.
And he ended up running for a first down.
Yeah, he sucked the ball out. Yep.
You could see that his foot wasn't right, and he wasn't going to be as mobile as he was. And given the fact that they had trouble blocking because of those injuries like we mentioned, I think that toe was actually a fairly big factor in the game.
It had to be, because there's reports he's going to have surgery on it. So
is that true?
Wrong.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
wow.
There was reports that he's having surgery after the season. So that is there's something wrong. You just don't go to have surgery if it's just for the heck of it, right? There's something wrong.
That means there's probably a small fracture in there, right?
Could be. Yeah, absolutely. So that had an effect on him. One thing that the Chiefs could do, they did run the football decently, but when they got down and they had to try to score points and went to the passing game, it just couldn't hold up. I mean, did you see the stat that that Patrick Mahomes ran over 500 yards yesterday?
I know. Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah.
You mean,
you know how they do that the next game's Gen Stats where how many yards he actually – they said it was 500 yards.
That's crazy. By the way, speaking of which, we always talk about how it's a passing league now, and I absolutely agree with that. But I think yesterday we saw, Jeff, how it hurt the Chiefs that they didn't have a consistent running game. Because to your point, Bowles did not blitz. He did not crowd the line of scrimmage. I think they showed a next-gen stat during the game. I think it might have been the fourth quarter that it was the highest percentage all year that the Bucs aligned with two safeties deep over the course of a game. It was something like, I think 80% of their snaps, they had two safeties deep. Well, how do you get a team out of playing two safeties deep? You run it.
Yeah,
and
come up.
The Chiefs, weren't able to run it well enough. They finished the game running it. They ran it 17 times for 107 yards. Hilaire was 9 rushes, 64 yards. But they didn't stick with it enough. And
they couldn't. They were down in the game so much that they had to come back.
Yeah, well, they were in the second half, Jeff. But in the first half, they were down. It wasn't that bad. It was 14-3 with 6 minutes to go in the second quarter, okay? And then it was 14-6 right before the half. So it was a one-score game, all right? And in the first half, let me look at the rushing stats here. I'm bringing up the first half stats. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran it 4 times in the first half.
Yeah.
And Darrell Williams ran it 1 time for 2 yards. There was no reason you could have run the ball in the first half of that game if you wanted to. And they chose not to. So I think that was a factor, number one. I just think it's something that could have helped them in this game.
Well, Tampa Bay has they have ridiculous linebackers that play the run so well.
And by the way, Levante David did a great job on Kelsey too. But it does help too, and this is the thing that I brought up to the people I was watching the game with. They showed him being very physical with Kelsey off the line and bumping him coming out of his routes and everything. And I'm like, well, guys, he's able to do that because there's somebody over the top. If he's that aggressive, playing a man-on-man and trying to bump him coming out of his breaks, if Kelsey just runs by him, it's a touchdown. Yeah. But he's able to do that because he has help over the top.
He is a heck of a football player.
He really is.
I mean, the guy, like you said, with the coverage that he had on him all day, he still caught, 11 passes? And I'm thinking to myself, there's your MVP if they win. I mean, this guy is like tearing it apart.
Yeah, that was actually Paul and I's prediction on Friday that Kelsey would be the MVP.
Sure. But I feel like, with and Mahomes, you just can't say anything bad about him. He tried his best to do whatever. Receivers were dropping passes.
Jeff, how about those 2 ridiculous throws? He's falling down, throwing sidearm.
Oh my God,
hitting guys in the face.
I was telling my friends, I could not get over that throw.
No,
and
me neither.
They were all like, dude, relax. I'm like, wait a second. Do you guys understand what he just did?
I know.
It looked like that was a baseball move. That was a turning a double play move that he's did from his baseball days. I'm telling you, both his feet were in the air, like he was turning a double play at Yankee Stadium.
And then he had another one in the fourth quarter.
It's unbelievable. I just was, the guy is going to be fun to watch. Listen, Tom Brady, he's been to 10 Super Bowls. He's only won 7, but you know what? He lost 3. So I'm just telling you that Patrick Mahomes will learn from this. And I saw his interview today on TV after the game, and he was just basically, hey, listen, you know what? I was proud of my teammates. Went out there, we didn't do enough. They were a better team today, and I played as hard as I could, and he did. I thought he did as best he could from what was the circumstances. So,
I wouldn't put this loss on Patrick Mahomes.
No, you can't. You got to put it on. I would put it on that offensive line, the defense for the Saints, the penalties. Saints. I mean, the Saints.
Jeff, and that's the thing. I want to get to the penalties. And look, they were consistent throughout the game with the penalties. It was a much tighter game that they called compared to what we saw, I think, in the last couple of games.
Sure.
And the funny thing I said, I always do my Monday and Friday radio hits up in Albany for Albany affiliate. And I said, guys, the funny thing about it, if they called defensive holding and pass interference as tightly in the NFC Championship game as they did in this game, the Bucs never would have beaten the Packers. They would have been flagged that whole game for defensive holding and pass interference.
Yeah.
Because what they were doing to the Packers receivers was a lot worse than what the Chiefs were doing to the Bucs receivers. Not to say they weren't penalties, but it just shows that how
the way that they were calling the game.
Exactly.
That was the difference. Yeah, I thought some of the penalties yesterday were, could they have been? They were, but I thought they were just a little bit I think they're flag happy a little bit too much. And here's the thing about this, John. And I think you've been around it enough to know when these players get caught up in this stuff. And the Honey Badger, he was. You could see that he was very, very disgruntled about all the penalties and things that were happening.
He was a little emotional, Jeff.
And yeah. But what happens is it takes you out of your game. And somebody like Tom Brady who understands that and sees that, I mean, this guy he's going to capitalize on that. Of course, they had some words on the field. I don't know exactly what happened there, but the fact of the matter is that when there's a player like Tom Brady, and when he senses he's been around football for so long, senses that type of thing, he's going to attack that. And I think that, just the Chiefs, their secondary with the penalties and stuff, it took them out of their game. It really did.
They really did. I agree. And look, they cleaned it up in the second half a little bit, but it killed them in that first half. And then people want to kill Andy Reid, by the way, for calling those timeouts. I'm sorry. You have that Chief offense and Patrick Mahomes. I'm trying to get the ball back, too. 100%. I don't mind the timeout. How about Brashad Breeland, who, by the way, we've seen him do this a million times when he was with Washington. He's the king of getting beat over the top and giving up big plays. Don't let the guy run behind you. There's 20 seconds to go or 40, whatever it was. Just keep him in front of you. It's the same thing that happened in the NFC Championship game. Guys, this isn't rocket science. You have to be able to trust your – guys, this is not trusting your player to be better than Mike Evans. This is not trusting your player to play man-to-man coverage on an island. This is simply trusting your player not to be an idiot, okay?
Yeah.
And
well, he's an idiot coming in. We knew that.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'll tell you – how much fun is it to watch Rob Gronkowski play football?
Someone described him as like the human version of a golden retriever, and I thought that was just perfect.
I love it. That is perfect. He's just so fun to watch because he's just there. He's got you check every box with that guy.
That dude loves life, man. He just does.
Did you read about him? He said, listen, I retired out of retirement. He says, I come down to Tampa. I can go to work in flip-flops and shorts and a T-shirt every day. That's exactly how I like to live. This was it. I just had so much fun playing here in Florida this year.
And he already announced he's coming back.
Well, I mean, why not?
Yeah, I know.
Why not? I mean, listen, for older guys to be able to go somewhere, especially those two guys who spent so much time up in the Northeast with Bill Belichick practicing in the snow and the rain and the sleet and all that stuff, to go back down to Tampa and be able to do what he just said, go to work in flip-flops and shorts every day and be the man, and actually, be best friends with the guy that's throwing the football to you. I mean, those two, I just crack up when I see those little the little Instagram hits that they have where they're both looking at each other and they're giving you that, well, sorry, we're back. You know what picture I'm talking about? They've been doing this picture forever, just like, well, sorry, we're here again. Well, sorry, we're here again. I mean, it's amazing. I just love watching those guys play.
It's unbelievable. It
really is.
It's
It
crazy.
really is. And did you see Did you see where Bruce Arians has admitted that they have another coordinator on the field with Tom Brady, so and it makes his life really easy. Well, yesterday they had the camera on Tom Brady. Did you see where he was yelling about the personnel that was coming in and telling them, no, get back. We're going to run 5 or whatever it was. He was basically telling the coaches, we're not running that. We're running what I want to run. He basically told one guy that just ran on the field to go back off.
Jeff, and that's why I think you have to tip the cap to Bruce Arians a little bit. And Tony Romo made this point when he had called the Chiefs-Bucs game earlier in the year, that he was starting to see the Bucs offense change a little bit and incorporate some more of Brady's stuff. And I think you have to give Arians credit, but some coaches will be stubborn. They're like, no, this is my system. I'm running my system. Now, it would be foolish when you got to like Tom Brady on your team, but I think we saw him let Brady take control of the offense a little bit, and that's why it got more consistent over the final couple of months.
You did see a lot of what he had done up in New England with the short passing game.
Not as much vertical stuff.
Yeah, the extension of the running game with those short little passes then they're well-designed plays.
And by the way, can you imagine how good it'll be when they actually get a running back that can catch the ball consistently?
Yeah, I know. And you know what? What's no surprise with the Tom Brady offense is your little scat back guy, right? Scotty Miller.
That's
every single offense that he's been in, he's got one of those little guys.
Whether it's Edelman or Welker or Amendola,
all those little 5 foot.
And by the way, he has that receiver, and then he also has a James White or a Dion Lewis or
That's
one
right.
of those guys that can catch balls out of the backfield.
Yeah, he's almost like you almost see him up in the personnel department looking at, like they're bored and say, no, we're not doing this. Get this guy off the board. Move him. Move this guy over here. Like he's his own scouting department.
All right, the final thing, Jeff, I want to bring up before we get to the calls at 973-667-1960. That's lessons the Giants can take out of this game.
Sure.
And to me,
big time.
I think it's huge because I think when you look at it, this is what you kind of have to worry about, right? Rushing the passer and protecting the quarterback. Those are two of the things that were just so important in this game, and we already talked about what happened in the game, but those are two areas where the Giants still have to improve. I know their sack totals were better this year, but I'm not sure I can count on that again. They still don't have those edge rushers like Barrett, like JPP, that can win as consistently as they do off the edge. And as good as Leonard Williams is, he's still not one of those guys necessarily. And the Giants, we don't know yet that they can protect enough when it becomes a passing situation where you can give Daniel Jones the time he needs to succeed. So that combined with obviously having, just look at all the playmakers these quarterbacks had at the outside running around. Oh, you have to double team Tyreek Hill. You have to double team Travis Kelce. Oh, Mike Evans wins over the top. Oh, this guy wins over the top. That's a touchdown. Just go down the list. Yeah. Those are the three things that I think are still most important for the Giants here in order to have success moving forward. Protect the quarterback, rush the passer, and make big plays offensively.
Well, if you look at the Giants and you look at you're right. You got to kind of pick your poison and how you want to go. But I will tell you that when you look at the success of these teams that the Giants win the Super Bowls that they've won, it's come from the defensive side of the football. Okay, and they've had strong, good offensive line play. So the Giants going forward is where are you going to spend your money? Where are you going to use your draft? And I think that it proved last night that if you have a defense that can play good football and not have to blitz and be able to get after the quarterback and disrupt things, offensively you don't have to do much. So you're not going to ask Daniel Jones to go out there and throw for 350 yards a game. You just have to manage the game and have some playmakers at certain positions. I think what's missing here is that if Evan Ingram can ever get to the level that everybody wants him to get, he surely can compete and be one of the better tight ends and fill that need as a quarterback, whether it's anybody, in my opinion, Daniel Jones or whoever in the league. If you have that type of a tight end like Tampa Bay does, they got a couple of them, by the way. And then, at the receiver position, one thing, John, that I thought about this, and it's funny you brought this up because I was thinking about this before we even came on the show today about the Giants and how you can learn from this, is that the whole season you saw how this Bucs team, they collectively got better and better. They won the last, I think it was 7 games of the season, 7 or 8.
That sounds right.
So I feel like, if you look at the Giants and where they're going, anything can happen. You just got to get that chemistry, and you got to be able to have one side of the football really do good things for you. And I think that the Giants, if you look at the way that this game was played yesterday, it's a good roadmap to try to put your, understand where you got to go and look at what they did. I think the Giants can do that. But I think most importantly to me is, aside from a wide receiver, as we talk about, yeah, they could use a big play wide receiver. They really could. They could use another cornerback. But I think when you look at what happened last night in that game, I think from a need standpoint, and I agree with you, where Leonard Williams just isn't there yet to be in that class of a Shaq Barrett and, a JPP and those types, you got to have a guy that can put pressure on that quarterback consistently. Shaq Barrett is a beast. How many sacks did he have this year against the Giants? Was it 4 or 5? Remember?
Well, that was last year when he had the monster game against the Giants.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
But a guy like that who can just disrupt a game. That to me, that would be really nice to have. So we'll see what happens going forward here. We're going to get close to that because free agency is starting soon. Tags are coming out. We're going to know a little bit more of the landscape of it soon.